3, 2, 1. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer Podcast, episode 159. Today we're being joined by Garrett Wing of American Standard Canine for a follow-up conversation from ours that we had last year with him. Let's get him on.
Good morning, guys.
What's good?
Hey.
Give me a sec to get this thing
Yeah, no problem.
squared away, man.
Awesome. Well, excited to have a little follow-up conversation. I think our podcast episode we did last year, we got really, really great, reception from it, obviously. So people really were requesting having you back on. So I'm glad we were able to make it happen, obviously. So how's things been? So how's the move been up to, you're in what, North Carolina now?
Yeah, we're outside of Charlotte and loving it, man. I grew up my whole life down in South Florida, 40 years. I just turned 41. What was it? About 4 or 5 days ago. So this is the first time ever I got to experience, my family included, the 4 seasons, man. I mean, South Florida has one season, and it's summer that leads basically into hotter summer. It's really, I love South Florida, but the weather is just not where it's at, man. Now we get the 4 seasons, man, and we're here in Charlotte. People are like, it's hot out. I'm like, this is nothing. This is amazing. So really loving it, man.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I went, I think last year in August, I went to Key West, which is probably the worst time of year you could possibly go to Key West. And it was the most excruciating, blistering, humid heat I've probably ever experienced in my life. So I don't think I could live in an area that's like that.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, man. I don't know if I was hearing you perfect, and now all of a sudden I'm not. So
yeah, no problem. You were kind of.
Oh, now you're perfect.
Yeah, I could hear you fine, but you were. I don't know if your internet's if it's good or not over there. But for a second, you were kind of cutting in and out visually. But it seems like everything's fine now.
Let me. I can switch it too if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Are we already recorded, man? I didn't know we were just catching up or recording.
No, you're good. Yeah, I usually record right from the get go, but any of the bullshit at the beginning we can cut out if we need to. So. Cool. So obviously moving to North Carolina, how have you noticed that's impacted the company as you moved up there? What's
not at all, really, because our customers are coming from all over the world now. We had just had a customer come from Washington State to go to, because we have the certified trainer still in Florida. So any folks that wanted to visit us there or wanted to do boarding, because we do boarding for any of our board and train clients, because we know what those dogs are like. They're already fully trained. So it's actually a pleasure to meet back with them, touch up on their training. But any of those clients now go to any of my certified trainers down in Florida. I have the best certified trainers. And now we have folks coming from probably the furthest distance is Washington State down to Florida. And even when the guy called, amazing gentleman, he actually took our online courses. So I don't want to bore you with this story, but I found it interesting.
Sure.
He takes our online courses. He's got a working line German Shepherd. And he calls and he's speaking with our sales guy, which I don't even call him a sales guy, man. It's client services. We're just trying to make sure we're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for us. Yeah. And so he says, man, I've taken the online courses. I feel like I've gotten pretty far with my dog, but I want that extra touch. And so we're like, sure, what, do me a favor, show us the videos, show us where you're at with your dog. We start sharing that video amongst myself, all the trainers, everybody on my team. And we're like, what's there left to teach this dog? This dog's a killer, man. Attention, healing, looking sharp. Now, I see him as a handler or a trainer. I'm like, I could see little mistakes here, but that's not a dog thing. That's him. He needs to just tweak his timing and stuff like that. Yeah. So we literally told him, he's like trying to throw money at us. He goes, no, take my money. I want Garrett to train the dog. We're like, bro, I'm not taking your money. Like, what do you want me to do? Take you from 98% to 100? Like, how much should that cost? Like, that's crazy, man. We're not going to do it. Your dog's perfect, bro. Your dog's better than I'm telling you every dog probably in your whole town, guaranteed. Yeah. But he won't take no for an answer. So we're like, all right. So send us a couple more videos. Then come to find out it's not the obedience he's having an issue with. The obedience is killer. It's a dog's leash reactive. It's like, oh, okay, now this makes sense, bro. Now that's something we can fix. So he flies his dog all the way from Washington to Florida. My certified trainer knocks it out of the park. We fix the leash reactivity. The dog is a superstar, man. And so, and then it's kind of a long story, but I wanted to meet him. He wanted to meet me. So my certified trainer brought the dog to Charlotte. This guy flew to Charlotte, and we did a couple of days training as we usually do to make sure the owner's on point. And then he took the dog back to Washington State where they live happily ever after. We're still in touch with him today. We love getting the videos, seeing, the dog not being leash reactive anymore and crushing it. So I was like, man, now we've had dogs from trying to think of the name of some of these islands, man.
The
It's gonna take me
Caribbean
a
islands
second.
you're talking? You
What's
talking about
that?
Caribbean islands?
Yeah, and then beyond.
Yeah.
There's one off the coast of like South America. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But he just brought his dog
Yeah.
in. It's crazy. My
That's
point
cool.
being,
Yeah.
it kind of doesn't matter where we are. And it's not to brag or anything. We're just truly blessed.
Yeah.
We literally moved to Charlotte. One of the reasons was because we looked. I'm like, hey, Miami, it's no joke. Like, there's a lot of wealthy people there, VIP people,
Sure.
and that's where we really started our business. So it's like, man, do we really want to risk it, dude? I'm quitting police work.
Yeah.
I'm going all in on the dog training. I did all of this like an idiot, bro. If you looked at it, you're like, that's dumb. That's dumb. Maybe one big move at a time.
Sure.
But don't quit police work and completely upend your business and move to another state.
Yeah.
So we looked and said, hey, Charlotte's probably this place to be because it's, I think, kind of a little known fact, but Charlotte is like an epicenter of like financial services. It's the next big financial services next to New York. So there's a lot of wealthy folks in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So we're like, hey, at least we're going to surround ourselves with folks who could afford our training.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't trained one person from Charlotte. It's been everywhere but New York, New Jersey, continue to feed us great clients. Now we have another client coming in from Washington State. Same thing, man. I told him, like, bro, is there not a trainer in Washington that can handle what you need? He's like, I want you. I said, okay, man.
Yeah.
I even put him in touch with the other guy from Washington State to tell him what a pain in the butt it is to get his dog down. Tell him, don't go with us because I want to save the guy money. I want to save him the time and effort. It sounds crazy that I'm pushing people away. It's like, because I just want the best for our customers.
Sure.
But the guy's like, no, man, I'm coming to you. I said, okay, then now it's on me to deliver. And so we're looking forward to it. No, I'm talking in circles here, man. But yeah, we've had some clients just coming from everywhere and we're truly blessed. And so Charlotte's been wonderful to us.
Yeah, and I'm sure Charlotte too. Miami, I know just from the couple times I've been there, it's kind of difficult. There's not so many direct flights that go there. Where Charlotte's a freaking hub, So I would almost say that it would probably make it easier for people from all over the country to come and utilize your services because you can get there so easily from pretty much anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we did weigh that into our factor, like, because we were seeing at the time, like, well, man, most of our clients are coming from New York and New Jersey anyway. So now we're that much closer. So in that sense, it's absolutely worked out. We haven't seen really a hiccup in the business. The only thing we're losing out on is our fantastic previous clients where we had a constant flow of just boardings, like nonstop. We'd be training 2 or 3 dogs and we'd have 3 or 4 dogs constantly coming in just for people going on vacation and stuff. So we're missing out on a little bit of that, but it's kind of probably a blessing in disguise because now we're able to focus more on our online courses and all the other stuff that we're working on.
Yeah, that kind of segues to a big thing I wanted to talk about today is obviously, as I was watching some of your most recent YouTube videos kind of leading up to this, you obviously really, really pushing your online training right now, right? And all the videos got advertisements through them and stuff for it. I'm really curious to hear your opinion on where the virtual training industry is going, how beneficial you find that it is. Obviously beneficial, you offer it, right? And then past that, like, what place, in-person training is going to have as the years go on and virtual training gets easier and easier for people to kind of get to?
That's a spicy question, man.
Yeah.
Well, the reason the online training even came about was everything we've done in our business basically born out of a need. And the need comes when we're fully booked out for months and months. People want to come to us. And I'm like, yeah, like, we'd love to have you, but you're going to have to wait 3 or 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. And it's expensive. There's got to be a better alternative. It's like, hey, why don't we just start filming what we do? We'll show folks how to do it. And so we have crazy success with this. And I'm not saying it's just to brag. Like, it still blows my mind today when we have folks, we do challenges now in our membership. And we'll do, like, right now, this month's challenge, which is ending tomorrow, is a focus challenge. Who can get their dog to, we're looking for like most improved, and we're also looking for like whoever just can really outshine everybody else in terms of getting their dog to focus on you, really eye to eye contact. And we show them, because everyone's at different steps. So whether it's from a front center, like how long can your dog maintain eye contact with you? We're looking for duration. We're also looking for how long they can maintain eye contact. So we challenge them like, hey, sure, we'll give you some bonus points if your dog can do it for 2 minutes. But I might give more bonus points to the folks who are in the middle of a mall or somewhere crazy outside of a playground, and their dog's giving them 30 to 45 seconds of straight focus, no break. Like that might outdo your 2 minutes. Yeah. I'm also looking at the age of the dog. But hey, you want to go a step further? What about from heel position? Hey, you want to go a step further? How about the ultimate? Give me that focused attention heel in the most crowded place you can. So I'm excited because I haven't seen these videos yet. So we wait till the end. We collect the best ones. They come to me, and then we review them, and then we announce winners, and we give away swag and merch and all this stuff. But what folks are able to do on their own is just, I don't even know if I should be surprised, but it's because I'm showing them what we do.
Yeah.
All they got to do is follow the steps. And if they're able to do it, it's amazing. So I think to your question, I know I talk a lot. You got to bear with me.
You're fine.
What I have found, whether it's boarding and training, private training, group training, God help them. There is good group training, but I'm talking about the crappy ones. You know the one I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Most of these folks, especially with boarding and training, I say this all the time. I don't care who trains your dog. I don't care how much money you throw at it. Could be the best trainer on the planet. When they give the dog back to you, if you don't know how to train/maintain that dog, it's going to go to crap in about, give or take 48, 72 hours, couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen pretty quickly, and your dog will be right back where they left.
Yeah.
Right back where we started, I should say. So the benefit of the online training is we now have coined this term. I don't know if it's proprietary or not, but we call them now, you're not just an owner, you're an owner trainer. You have to be an owner trainer. And that's why we're so good at our board and train program, is because we take a crazy amount of time making sure that when these folks go back home with their dog, it's not a 30-minute like, hey, your dog's perfect. Good luck to you.
Sure.
But we are spending, it's actually, you would think we'd get more and more refined and get faster. We're just taking longer and longer and longer, bro. I'm talking about 6-hour take homes.
Yeah.
1 take home, but it's a mandatory 2 meetings. So we're looking at anywhere from 10 to 12 hours or longer that we're spending with these folks to make sure that they're able to maintain it. Because nothing would be worse if these folks spend all this time and money. We spend all this time and effort, and we're getting a phone call like a month later, 6 months later, hey, the dog sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, look, that's not on us anymore because we showed you. And so these people are, I don't know what you want to call it, pride of ownership. We just hit them with a fire hose, man. We're like, nope, do it again. Nope, do it again. Nope, your dog's not respecting you. I'd say, watch me do it. Why does the dog do it for me? Because the dog knows I'm not going to put up with the BS. Now, you try it again. Now, my favorite thing is when we have the husband or the wife do it, and the dog listens great for, let's say, the wife. So I'll watch this now. We already know where this is going. The dog goes to the husband, and the dog's jumping on him, not listening, goofing around. I'm like, I see who's giving treats and belly rubs, but not putting a little bit of discipline and structure and whatnot. So anyways, the point of the online stuff is it's there for you. If you need to repeat a lesson, you can. It's not like you have to pay the trainer to come out again to show you.
Yeah.
It's at your own time, where you could be on a plane watching it. You could be at your home watching it. You could be skipping out on work watching it. It's all there for you. And then what we end up happening, which is the next segue, at some point we're getting there. And that's all these folks are doing so good training their own dogs. They have so much success with it. They're so proud of it. But now their dog's like, what else can I teach my dog?
Yeah.
So it's actually 2 ways we're going. Now we're adding more courses, more like scent detection, tracking. We might even get into bite work because like people want to go to the next level. But then we're also having folks that just crush the obedience and they're now like, my dog's perfect, but I want to go again. So now they train their neighbor's dog.
Yeah.
They train all their neighbor's dog. Now all the dogs in the neighborhood are great. Now they got the itch. So now we have folks who've taken our courses are becoming professional dog trainers, which I couldn't be more proud of. So now they're making money. They're able to quit their horrible 9-to-5 job and make more money doing something they love and something they're good at. So where the future is, I don't know. I know for a fact that it's not like online dog training is going to be 100% of the market. No, because there's still folks out there, especially in the upper echelon, like they don't have time to watch a 60-hour course. Yeah. They don't got time for that. Like, bro, how much is it? Yeah, please train my dog.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be folks who don't have the time, that aren't interested. That just, can you just do it for me? So boarding and training is always going to be alive and well. And the other good thing that I'm counting on, we see it in all these other industries. I was at McDonald's the other day, man. It's like nobody's ordering from the person at the cash register anymore. It's all off this automated thing.
Yeah.
You go to all these different places, Target, Walmart, whatever. It's like a lot of these entry-level positions don't exist anymore because robots are taking over, man. And that's the future. So I really sometimes stay up at night thinking like, man, what are my kids going to do? They're 7 and 5 now. What's it look like 20 years from now? I don't think we're at a point where robots are going to be training dogs anytime soon. So for that, I'm very thankful, because I just don't think the robots are going to ever really have that finesse to make that last minute change, because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm excited about. Fuck the robots.
I've always looked at it like two ways, right? So you have the one way, which is kind of like what you were saying, which is, you could get a lot accomplished, virtually or through a class or whatever it may be, but it's going to take a little bit of discipline on your part. You're not going to have the hand holding that a trainer might be able to provide you in person, stuff like that, right? And then, when you get into like your really, really kind of serious cases or weird cases or ones that really require quite a bit of troubleshooting, it's just, you need a trainer in real time that's going to be able to kind of play around with stuff, because there's not a black and white route to get to the solution that you want to get to, right? So I think in person will continue to get more boutique, and less kind of big box like you see right now, where people are hiring all of these trainers just to teach the dog to like sit down and stay. And it's going to be predominantly moving towards like behavioral kind of stuff. But the other more weird side of things is, with this push towards, technology for everything, it's like, do we hit a point in 10 years where it's not robots training the dogs, but we're getting trained robot dogs?
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's coming. I think it's already here, man. So for sure, we're gonna have that.
So
I don't know
like
when,
if you could
but
just program into that dog like everything that you want, all the behaviors you want, all that kind of stuff. It's like, man, that really might be where things are actually heading.
No potty training. They're not gonna shed. They do everything you want. You just got to plug them in at night, right?
100%.
Yeah, no barking.
Yeah.
But probably even you want to go crazy. We could spend a whole podcast talking about it. What does it look like with a robot protection dog? Right?
Oh, God.
Train it, hey, knock at the door. This is what I want you to do. If they don't say the special passcode, take them down, baby. Take them down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man. Okay, so now I got to think now as a business owner, okay, how do we get into that? All right, so we're going to have the American standard programming. Right? So you're going to have the robot. Yeah, but this one's got the programming. We'll be sending out chips now.
Yeah. So we have to learn coding now, which we could probably take an online class to learn. So hilarious.
Microchip company.
I'm telling you, one day, right? Truth is stranger than fiction. I'm sure it's coming.
No, 100%. Okay, so you mentioned a couple things you were talking about that. One of the big things you said is you're creating like owner trainers, right? So I'm curious your take as well on this idea that if an owner, I think one of the things that dog trainers as a whole get frustrated with is that owners inevitably at some point are going to kind of start falling off the rails, right? It's like the way an owner's brain is programmed to look at owning a dog is just inevitably going to be different than a trainer's brain is going to look at owning a dog, right? I just look at all the things I don't even have to think about that I do with my dogs, how I communicate with them, how I respond to certain situations, how I'm proactive about things, stuff like that. And I just look at like a bulk of my clientele and they can make a lot of progress, right? They could really, help get past a lot of the problems and stuff they have. But I don't know if they'll ever think the way that I think. Right. So how do you balance out that, especially given that you work with so many, high profile clients and stuff like that, that their brain is just going to be elsewhere in a lot of cases and not on being an owner trainer. How do you really combat that and get them to a place where you feel confident they're still going to have the long-term success that we want them to have?
Good question again. We have had instances in the past that have ended disastrous.
Sure.
Because this is what it looks like, right? I'm talking to them and they're like,
yep.
No, I got that. Yep. Texting on their phone, too busy trying to take a video of their dog for freaking Instagram, doing it for the gram.
Yeah.
While I'm trying to show them how to work the freaking e-collar.
Yeah.
Right. And so the only maybe where I have a little success, and I'm not saying it's perfect. We're not perfect. And sometimes you just can't fix stupid. You just can't fix it. So if you're too busy wanting to be on the gram, while I'm trying to show you how to maintain your dog's behavior for the next 10, 12, 15 years, that's on you.
Yeah.
But where I'll step in, and this is maybe with my police background, I have no problem telling, I don't care how big of a high-end client you are.
Yeah.
I'm like, the customer's always right. Hey, you got to put your phone down, man.
Yeah.
You got to put it down.
Yeah.
Like you have to focus because this ain't going to get it. And I'll paint the picture for him. So I'm like, so we do run into that.
Yeah.
I think you're going to run into that no matter what level of clientele. I will say this, though. Some of our professional athletes that we've trained, bro, they're the best. Not all of them. Some of them are like, you could tell like they're just naturally talented. And I had one once where the guy, he wanted to play video games. Bro, play video games while I'm trying to show him how to train his dog. You know what I'm saying?
God.
I ran into
And
that literally
the
just
house
other
smelled
day.
like my boy's been smoking up the house.
Yeah.
And more power to you, man.
Sure.
Like, you want to smoke weed or whatever, but like, can you just do me a favor and be sober and clean and focused and not play video games? So I'm trying to show you how to maintain your dog.
Yeah.
So we have that. But then that's the rarity. Most of the time, man, these athletes are like, you can see why they're so good, because I have pretty high standards. And even I'm like, hey, man, that was good.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to do it again. I'm like, okay, bro, let's go again.
Yeah,
we'll go again. So we've had that. But a lot of these high performers, whether it's athletes or just business owners, they're little OCD, man. They want it right.
Yeah.
And they won't accept anything less than perfect from not only themselves or their business or their employees, but they also have that great mindset of like, nah, I know my dog can do better. And they're on their dogs just as much as, or even more so than I am. I even sometimes have to, hey, man, give your dog a little slack. You know what I'm saying? Sure. You asked for a sit and it gave you a down, baby. Take it. Take the down. No. I said sit. Okay. So, but no, of course, I don't care what price point we're talking about, what level of society we're talking about, whatever. You're always going to have folks who are in it to win it and folks who just aren't. So, but all you can do, man, is do the best that you can. We give them 110% of our effort. We offer a lifetime guarantee with a caveat. Mm-hmm. You got to do what we told you to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't do it, then that's on you. And if you got to send your dog back for remedial training, but it's your fault, like that's on you, baby.
Yeah.
Because, and you know what ends up happening? You may have seen this. Literally, because they're like, no, man, the dog's really back out of control, this and that. Again, this is very rare. Mm-hmm. The second this dog shows up, okay, let me not exaggerate. 30 seconds after the dog shows up, maybe 15 seconds, one correction, and that dog's like, yes, sir. Yeah. They're right back to where they need to be. The dog didn't forget their behaviors. It's right there under, all the good behaviors are right there under the surface. We just got to kick a little bit of the rust off, brush it off, and they're right back to normal. And then we show them like, the dog, this is a you thing. This ain't a dog thing.
Yeah.
So we're never retraining the dog. We're just retraining the human.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So
I always used to say like training isn't like, it's not a use it or lose it. You know, it's I've rarely ever met a dog where it's like, you know, we train this dog up really well, and then like 3 years later I'll see the dog and life happens and, you know, things are kind of falling apart for the owner a little bit. And it, like you said, it almost is immediate as soon as we start working with the dog again, that they jump right back into the groove with stuff. And it's actually pretty unbelievable, because you would think, you know, something like training like that, they could forget it, right? Or things just get sloppy, and it doesn't always work exactly that way where things get right back under control. But it's wild. And also like the association and the memory that the dogs have of like the second or 30 seconds after they see us again, even if it's been 4 years, it's like, it's almost like sometimes you don't even need to do anything. It's just the fact that they're in your presence again. You know, they understand what the expectations are.
They're like, that guy.
Yeah,
oh, no.
it really is unbelievable. And you mentioned also, you know, how your sales reps, they're not even sales reps, they're like customer service agents, right? And I think too, when you stop selling your program to people, right, you attract the kinds of clients that are going to care about the work that they're doing, right? They're the ones that are seeking you out. You're not pushing them to come and do your program. I think that is such a big part. And it's inevitable. Like I remember when I first got into the industry, you know, like 10 years ago, I'm needing to sell programs. I need to stay in business. I need to make money, right? You work with what you can get, but like at a certain point, it's like your work should kind of speak for itself, and people should want to come and learn from you. So I think that's massive.
Agreed.
Well.
Yeah. And we're mentoring a lot of our younger trainers, and we do a lot of coaching, and we're still trying to get our Dog Trainers Academy up off the ground, because we want it to be the best in the world. And that's definitely one of the things we're going to teach and preach, which we do now. Mm-hmm. It's like, you got to learn from the lessons. You got to learn from David's lessons. You got to learn from my lessons. You don't have to take every client that comes on. Now, are there lessons to be learned? Like, yeah, you take that aggressive case, learn from it.
Sure.
But there are some that it's like the lesson learned is that wasn't a good client for you.
Yeah, sure.
You know what? And here's an example of one. And we just did this not 2-3 weeks ago. And again, I can't even say we have salespeople. I got one guy who's an assistant trainer that's very friendly on the phone, that knows what we're good at, what we're not good at. But the point being, I cannot stress this enough. I'm like, do not force anyone into our program if they can't afford it, or we're not the right fit for them, or vice versa. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. So we turn away a lot more people than we take. I mean, some people, maybe if you got dog trainers listening to your show, like, oh, that must be nice. Man, I don't care what price point you're at. You're doing yourself a disservice. I promise you, if you send away that one client that's not good for you, a better one will come along. I promise you that. So, because what's it worth to you if you get just absolutely torn up by this dog? What's it worth to you if, like, you put blood, sweat, and tears into it and the dog's just there's just no fixing it. The dog's got issues that cannot be fixed, or there's something wrong with it neurologically. So it's very rare this happens. But anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought. But yeah, you got to...
Yeah. You were going to say you had a situation that happened recently. I think that you said was like a lesson you learned from, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, so the lady called. She had a chow chow, I believe, 2 to 3 years old. And, for me, it's the big thing. Like, yeah, I care what breed it is. I care about the issues you're having. But, man, age makes a big difference. This is a 8-year-old dog. How much more effort you really want to drop 20 grand on an 8-year-old dog?
Yeah.
If you want to, that's on you. But what are you trying to accomplish here? Here we have a 2 to 3-year-old chow chow, showing signs of dominance, leash activity. I think it's bit 2 people already. And she's very, very soft on the phone, right? Fine. Very, very inquisitive on how we're going to train. And great. I'm happy that you're asking the right questions. Yeah, but are you really going to use a prong collar? How long do I need to use the e-collar for? I'm like, lady, we haven't even started training your dog. We're not under contract with nothing.
Yeah.
We're just letting you know these are our availabilities, and we think that this certified trainer would be the best for you. So she's not even taking my program. She's taking one of our certified trainers, which is half the price. Granted, it's still expensive. It's 10 grand.
Sure.
So she's now saying, okay, well, I'm interested, but can you do a little bit of a better price for me? Because I don't think I can afford it, and it's like, I don't know, man. You're talking about one of the worst case scenarios, fully mature, intact, 2 to 3-year-old chow chow, already bit a couple people. This is a hard ass dog. A lot of people aren't going to be able to handle this dog.
Yeah.
We are going to be, I'd say, putting our lives on the line. It ain't that, but we are definitely, you'll see why in a minute where I'm going with this.
Sure.
I said, bro, so I had the more novice trainer, and let me not say that, 20 plus years training police dogs, very new to the pet industry, right? So most of our certified trainers are canine handlers, either current or former. He's a current canine handler. And so he's, man, what do you think, bro? We could just knock a couple grand off and we'll take the dog. I said, bro, that I'm telling you now, I see the writing on the wall. This is not a good client for you, for none of us. This is a lady who, I don't care how much work you put into that dog. She's already asking you questions about how quickly she can take the tools off. Yeah. This is probably a dog who's going to need those tools for life. Yeah. 2 to 3 years of horrible behavior under its belt. Just the breed in general, the way it's acting, how soft she is on the phone. I'm like, money or no money, this ain't a money thing. Even if she says she's ready to pay the full price, it ain't about that anymore. Yeah. I said, I don't want her as a client. This is not a good client, bro. This is a dog that's going to revert. It's going to probably bite her at some point, gonna bite somebody else. I don't care what training you put into it. This lady is not gonna, you can hear in the questions she's asking, this is not the client for us. And then on top of that, you're gonna nickel and dime us? It's not how it works, man. It's just, I have if it looks like a duck, acts like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not a good client. I'm not using the best example here, but I said, look, bro, you know why? Watch this. And I was speaking with both the newer trainer and our sales guy, I said, politely tell her, like, we are not a good fit for her. Thank you, but no thank you. Was it later that day? Hey, I have a 4-month-old oodle poodle doodle. I don't know what it was. Ready to rock and roll. No bad habits. We love what you're doing. Price is not a concern. How quickly can we get into your program? Yeah. We love what you're doing. We're prepared to use all the tools to maintain. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so this is the lesson to be learned for younger trainers is like, if it don't feel right, it probably isn't right. That's the type of client that's going to haunt us for years to come. Yeah.
It's going to create so much extra work. I mean, the amount of clients back in the day we would have that were like that you kind of bend a little bit here, bend a little bit there. And it's like, inevitably it's like then the dog goes home and then they're shocked when things aren't going exactly as planned. And you find out, they didn't do a single thing you asked them to do, but they still expect that you're going to come in and then go and fix it for them again. And it just creates so much headache. And then if you don't, it's like you're a new trainer that then is at the mercy of this person that had unrealistic expectations, wanted to control everything. And then they're bad mouthing you and leaving you bad reviews and stuff for things that are their own fault. It's like people don't, if you look far enough in the future of what that could turn into, you realize how much more it could hurt your business than help your business than the, couple $1,000s you might get from them in the moment for that.
Exactly. So. And just in a parallel conversation too, sometimes we get folks like, hey, but can I put it on a credit card and can I make multiple payments? And I'm like, yeah, you can, but man, why don't you look at online courses? Why don't you look at other trainers? We can get you in touch with another trainer that doesn't charge as much as us, and is going to really knock it out of the park for you. And that's closer. Like, I don't think you need to travel across the US. Yeah. There's other trainers, trust me, between here and there that can handle it just as good, if not better. Maybe, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? I don't want anyone stretching their budget.
Yeah.
It's just going to put everybody in a bad position. So we often turn away folks like that too. Again, it ain't about the money, man. It's about doing what's right.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. And it's worked out for us to this point. And yes, many hard lessons learned. Trust me, just like you're talking about them now. I've taken on many a dog that probably shouldn't have. And there's only one time that we took on a client, great client. Money was not an issue. None of these things we've talked about. And I spent about 2 or 3 weeks with the dog. I don't remember what it was. It was some kind of mix, but picture about a 45 to 50 pound. I couldn't tell you what was in there. Like, I'm trying to remember now. It kind of doesn't matter. Just a beige dog. We'll call it that. 40 to 50 pound little beige dog. Kind of cute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Till it tried to eat you. This little son of a gun, he's just a mean son of a gun. And I'm going to say he's about 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so he's been getting away with this for such a long time. And man, we tried everything under the sun to get this dog to stop being the way he's super, had a lot of barrier aggression, I guess you would call it, but mostly in and around his crate, a lot of resource guarding issues. I got it to a point, I mean, thank God for the fake arm and legs. Yep. Shout out to my boy Steve Sprouse with those arm and legging products. If you don't use them, they're great, but they're like little rubber arms. Yeah. They're used for police bite work, but we've used them now for aggressive dogs to kind of, hey, I'd rather test with the fake arm than my arm. And so this dog's just trying to murder anything it can. I got it to a point where it was good with me, but then you'd leave, come back an hour or two later, kind of test it again, and it's like I forgot everything you just learned. Like, we got to do this again, and do it again. We finally got to a point where I had to have like a round table with literally my family and all my trainers. And I said, hey, and it cut me off, I've already told you this story, but I said, hey, the whole reason they sent the dog to us was the lady was pregnant. I want to say like 7-8 months pregnant. She's about to have a baby. And she said, look, she knows her dog's a little a-hole. She knows it. She says, I want to be able to have the baby and trust the dog around the baby, because I don't trust it right now. It's already bit a few people. It's bit like grandma. It's bit a bunch of people. Can you fix this? So, hey, all we can do is give it our best try. I spend like 2 to 3 weeks with this dog, and we just keep running into, like, it's getting better, no question. Yep. By the way, in the meantime, the obedience is looking killer. Dog is super sharp obedience-wise. Yeah. We just came down to one final question that I had to ask everyone. I said, because, man, we're banging our head on the wall trying to get this problem fixed. And trust me when I tell you, we did make a lot of inroads. The dog's getting a lot better, 10 times better even. But I said, hey, if we spend even 3, 4, 5 more weeks with this dog, but 3 months with this dog, and I had to go one by one, would you ever trust this dog around your kids? Hard no. Okay. Yeah. What about you? No. All the way around. I think we had like 6 people. I had an actual meeting about this.
Yeah.
Not one person could confidently say that they would ever trust this dog around kids ever in the future. The issues are too deep. No matter how much training you put in, the chance of this dog biting a kid is just still, it's there, man. It's never going to go away. And I think I've said this on your program before, but it's like, because people say, aren't you a dog trainer? Can't you fix it? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you cure a pedophile from being a pedophile?
Yes.
We've probably talked about that before.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a weird convo, but I'm like, this dog is a biteophile. It's going to bite you at some point. So I had to call the lady, and it was one of the worst calls I ever had to make, man. I said, I feel defeated as a trainer. I said, we've spent 3+ weeks with this dog. We've had this meeting. I told her everything I just told you. I said, I don't care how much training we put into it. I would never trust this dog around kids.
Yeah.
I said, we can keep training. His obedience is going to be perfect. Yes, it's made huge improvements, but I'd be lying to you if I'd ever trust this dog around kids. It's going to bite someone. It's just going to bite someone. Mm-hmm. How bad? I don't know, but it ain't going to be pretty.
Yeah.
And so I said, I gave it to her, but what do you want us to do? And this is my suggestion. And the suggestion was, we're going to refund every penny of your money.
Sure.
I don't want any money from you. And we will do everything we can to try to put you in touch with anyone else that might have a better shot at this. But trust me when I tell you, at this point, I've already made all the phone calls. Yeah. I've asked all the questions, and everyone's like, have you tried this? I'm like, yeah, I tried that. Have you tried this? No, let me try it. Come back. That ain't working.
Yeah.
So very sad, man. Still to this day, it like kind of haunts me. Like, man, is there anything else we could have done for that dog? And short of putting it on drugs and medicating it to where it's like half unconscious, even then I wouldn't trust that little son of a gun, man.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. So how do you approach a situation like that from the standpoint of, okay, so you have this dog that's not just an aggressive dog, but a handler aggressive dog, which I'm not sure if you would agree with me or not, but I look at those as two very different things. When you have a dog that's biting other people, you could kind of keep them away from other people if you desperately needed to. But when you have a dog that's acting aggressively towards the people in the home, like you can only manage and avoid that so well, right? So the risk, I think, is a little bit higher with those dogs. So you have a dog that's handler aggressive, right? She's having a baby, best case scenario for the baby's safety and for their safety, she gets rid of the dog, right? But knowing the dog is handler aggressive, I would look at something like that and think, I wouldn't rehome that dog either, right? I have pretty kind of firm beliefs on, if you have a dog that's actively biting people and you have somebody that loves this dog and, cares about this dog enough to spend, $10,000, $20,000 on this dog's training, but still can't handle the dog, right? Then you give them to somebody else that doesn't give a shit about the dog yet, right? And the dog is still biting. The dog is probably biting more because they're more stressed out being, totally uprooted from the life that they know. And then usually the path I see with all of those dogs is then this new person winds up just being the one that inevitably puts the dog down, right? So I'm curious your take on, when people have dogs that are aggressive, that they feel like they can't have anymore, do you ever recommend rehoming, or is it, a situation where you generally recommend euthanasia for that kind of stuff?
I think it's a case-by-case basis. There's so many variables. Because what if you could rehome the dog and it could go live on a farm somewhere? You know what I mean? And it lives happily ever after.
Does that exist, though? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. What you're saying.
Yeah. So it's so many variables, because maybe it's like I think this dog would be perfect in a home with no kids.
Sure.
No kids, because it is manageable.
Yeah.
Right? Like I dealt with it for 3.5 weeks or whatever.
Yeah,
it never bit me. Oh, it tried, baby. Yeah. We got it fixed. It's like letting it know, like, you got to stop doing that, man. It's not good for your health.
Yeah.
We got it to a point that it was manageable, but yeah, you got to be pretty squared away, on your toes, know what you're doing so as to not get bit by this dog and kind of constantly keep it in check. But this dog had a no quit. It had a no quit attitude, my man. And it's not for a novice owner, but it's like, well, who wants that?
Yeah.
Who wants that? Like, what's the benefit? What's the upside of having a dog like that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's never a fun place to be. I think, there's always a chance that there's the right fit for them. But it's like, well, how do you even find that person?
Yeah.
What's that ad look like?
Yeah.
Aggressive dog for adoption. Would love for you to rehome it. It might bite you, but the upside is, I don't know what the upside is. It's free.
Yeah. The gamble of it I see is that, when you, and I have this conversation with the rescues and shelters I work with also that have these dogs, that it's like, this is a liability, like trying to rehome it, right? But the gamble is like, even if you advertise like this dog bites people, right? I feel like most of the people that would attract of like, oh, I want to help the dog, right? Those are the kinds of people that probably are in over their heads as far as their capabilities with a dog like that, or don't really know what a dog coming after them or biting them like is or looks like. So they're almost like, yeah, like I'll sign up for that. An aggressive dog. I've had aggressive dogs in the past. They had a dog that barked at people or something like that, right? And then the first time the dog does actually try to bite them, they're shocked from it, right? So I feel like the only alternative I usually give people personally in those situations, if they do really want to rehome the dog, is it's got to go to somebody that already knows the dog, right? So if you have a friend or a family member that knows the dog, they've interacted with the dog before, and the important thing I feel like is that they've seen the dog at its worst to some extent. So they're not surprised when it winds up going into their house, and they could be a little bit more prepared to know what that dog really needs in order to stay successful. And we have had some situations before with clients like that who have, aggressive dog, they got to rehome the dog, and yeah, they got freaking, Uncle Rick, down the street that, lives by himself, and he's okay with having a little bit of an asshole of a dog, and it works out fine. But that's usually where I kind of tend to go to with those types of situations, is it's got to be under those circumstances if you want the highest probability of success with stuff. So.
Yeah, agreed. And it's not always the case. So then it's like, well, then what? Nobody wants to talk about it. It's very sad, but
yeah, it's.
I guess would you agree with me? Not every dog can be 100% cured of every behavioral problem.
Oh yeah, I mean, without a question of a doubt, you don't change who a dog is. I think earlier this year, I think I was reading like an article or something like that was breaking down the science of like, when you look at like the brain chemistry of an animal, right, and who they are, how they're programmed to respond to things. Like, you don't really change who that dog is, right? Whoever they are at their core is who they are at their core. Like your example of like a pedophile, right? Or something like that, right? But they could learn to manage what they do with that kind of, genetic, predisposition that they actually have. And they can learn to control the impulses they have. But those impulses will still always be there to some extent, right? So our job as trainers, I always say, is not to fix the dog, but it's to figure out, what does this dog need in order to thrive and be successful, right? You're not changing who they are. You're not fixing them, but you're figuring out, how do we set up the environment? How do we communicate with them properly? How do we understand their triggers and understand how to raise their threshold to things and stuff like that in order for everything to go successfully? But it really is like you're creating a recipe for every individual dog you're working with. And I'm predominantly talking about behavioral cases, obviously, when you get dogs that have really serious aggression, really serious anxiety and stuff like that. And a lot of people, when you tell them that, I feel like they get like really concerned initially. They're like, well, I don't want to totally adjust my life around my dog, which I understand, obviously. I don't want to adjust my life around my dog either. But many times, the adjustments you need to make and the routines you need to create and stuff like that, you know this, right? They're not really that hard to do. You know what I mean? It's like little tweaks here, little tweaks there, so that the dog's life is a little bit better, your life is a little bit better, and ultimately everybody is happier because of it. But, most people, they look at things too much from the lens of the dog needs to be fixed, which is why I think board and trains are so popular right now, is because they're almost to some extent advertised as, send your dog to us so we could fix your dog. Which obviously you spend a lot of time with your clients, right? They know that that's not the case when they work with you. We do the same thing. Like when we have out-of-town clients come in, I require they stay here for 3 days and work with us for 3 days before they go home. And then, virtual follow-up and all that kind of stuff. But I think too many people, getting to what you were saying, like mistakes that trainers have made, I see too many young trainers, they do their board and train, and then they do an hour-long send-home lesson, and then they just expect things are going to be great when they go home. And then they're surprised when the client comes back like, what the fuck? Things aren't working.
Exactly.
They haven't painted the picture of, what's going to be required from them, ultimately.
Yep.
So
there's
my little
Everything you said, I agree 100% with, is beautifully said too. Killer. And you hit on something there that we shouldn't skip over. And I don't remember what the word was, but it was... you don't really have to change that much. You just need to create a routine.
Yes. Yeah.
And so sometimes people ask, especially with like our online courses, but I don't have time for it. Like,
you're
doing gonna walk your dog.
Things. Yeah. It's changing the things you're already doing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna walk the dog anyways.
Yeah.
why don't you just do it the right way instead of getting pulled down the street?
100%.
You're going to feed the dog anyways. There's like a right and a wrong way to do it. All these things you're doing anyways, we're just showing you a better way. It doesn't really take much more time. Yeah, maybe the first time you do it, it could, I said, most of your problems you can fix in like 5 minutes. You got a dog shooting out the door, 5 minutes. You can fix it in about 30 to 60 seconds, to be honest with you, but depends how quickly you want to do it. But now that that's fixed, great. Now knock off the next thing and you're good to go. And then I think in the end too, it just saves a ton of time and heartache and stress down the road. I mean, because how much time in your day is it? I tell you, it takes 30 to 60 seconds. Fine. Let's call it 5 minutes to fix your dog from shooting out the front door. Okay, 5 minutes. You know how much time it takes to chase your dog down when it shoots out the front door and it's not on a leash and it's not recalling? It'll take you all day, all afternoon to get that dog back. You know what I mean? So it's like, you want the 5 minutes now or you want the 4-hour headache later?
And the 5-minute fix too is just you creating the routine. And the reason why the routines are so important is because it forces you to be intentional about how you're interacting with your dog. Right? Well, so many people, they go through their life with their dog just kind of reacting to everything that the dog does. It's like they don't think twice about, well, if I go through this door, as long as I do it this way, there's no chance I'm going to have a problem, right? If I have a guest come over and I do it this way, there's no chance I'm going to have a problem with my dog, right? Because it forces you to think proactively about what you're going to do as opposed to reactionarily to what the dog is doing in that moment. And I think that's the biggest difference between, what owners do and what trainers do. Is trainers think twice about what they're about to do to make sure they set themselves up for success, where owners wait till the dog is acting poorly and then try to get it under control, right?
Yeah, you take the words right out of my mouth. And it's actually one of the cornerstones of our take-home lessons is first off, we say the difference between a good dog trainer and a great dog trainer is timing. But the reason the timing is there is because a great dog trainer knows steps or twos ahead. They can already see what the dog's about to do before it even does it. Up to 30 seconds, 60 seconds, sometimes you're like, that dog's coming off the place board in about 30 seconds. Watch. And you can see it coming. So that's the difference between a good dog trainer and a great dog trainer, kind of being able to predict what's about to happen. But then we relay that to the owners. But now we say, look, this is where you got to go from here on out. This is all I want you to think about. And I'm drive this into them. When you tell your dog to sit, one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to do it, which I don't need you to think too much about. It's not that hard. Like if it does it, you pat it on the head, you tell it good boy, you give it a treat. You already got that part figured out. The part you don't have figured out is when you tell it to sit and it doesn't do it, now what do you do? Or, and again, you can extrapolate that, but when you tell it to stay at the front door and if it does it, great. Perfect. Don't think about, I want you to think about a step or two ahead. What does it look like when they don't do it? And so I literally pause right there. The dog's there. I'm like, all right, you told the dog to stay. When you open that front door, what could happen? They have to think for a minute. Takes them a while. Well, they could run out. I'm like, yes, they could run out. Now, here's the more important part. What are you going to do when the dog runs out the door? They're thinking and they say, I'll pop them on the leash. Yes. I mean, again, I don't want to dumb it down too much. Anyone who's listening, there's a bunch of things we could do, but this might be one example. The problem is, and this is where everyone gets it wrong as owners, sometimes trainers too, right? Novice trainers. You weren't thinking about what's about to happen. So by the time it happens, here's where it goes really wrong. I'm dumbing it down for anybody listening, right? You tell the dog to stay, and sometimes these owners are like, they're not even looking at the dog. They open the door. The dog's already shot out. It's already 30 feet down the road. And it's like, now what? You missed it, baby. You missed the moment and nothing you could do about it. Nothing. You missed that. They got one on you. You could recall it. And ideally, you should start over. But boy, they just got a big win under their belt. Or in your case, a big old loss. So that's it. That's the switch. I said, that's all I need you to think about going forward. Your dog is perfectly trained. No such thing as perfect, but it's very well trained. It knows how to sit at a doorway. The only question going forward, even after 6 weeks of training with Garrett Wing, that doesn't mean it's going to listen to you when you tell it to stay. I guarantee you, as soon as I leave, tonight, tomorrow, at some point, your dog's going to give you the big middle finger. And it's what you do when it does that's going to set the tone for how you go forward. So I said, stop thinking. You already know what good looks like. Just be one step ahead and know what wrong looks like and already know what you're going to do to fix it. So the moment it happens, you're already fixing it. That's it. That's all you got to do going forward from here on out to maintain your dog and even improve its training going forward. So I love that you and me are on the same, we just different verbiage for it, but
sure.
You're on the money.
I got my my little catchphrases too, just like you. So when I call that state of mind, I call that state of mind cautiously optimistic. That's what I always try to put my clients into the state of mind of, is we're cautious constantly of the dog doing the thing that we ultimately don't want them to do, but we're optimistic in knowing what the solution is going to be for it in that moment. And if you approach every situation with your dog with the state of mind of maybe they'll act up, but I know exactly what to do when they do inevitably act up, you'll be fine. And too many people sit in optimistic, especially post to board and train, where they're expecting the dog to behave themselves in all situations and they're surprised when they don't, right? So by going into that situation, I
stole from you on our last podcast, Power Breed.
Power Breed.
Now I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. I now add that to my toolbox, put it in my back pocket right there.
Let's go. I like it.
Killer.
Damn, I was going to say something a second ago. I can't remember what it was. I don't know. It'll come to me. Okay, so obviously, you're in a really big position of authority in the dog world right now. I mean, whether you think it or not, you got millions of followers across all platforms, past, owners, looking up to you as somebody that they can get good information from. A lot of trainers look at you as somebody that's made it, you know what I mean, in the dog world. So getting back to, help new trainers learn from some of the mistakes you made. I'm curious to hear other things you feel like as you started getting into the pet dog training world, both from a business standpoint as well as from a training standpoint, are mistakes that you're like, damn, I really want new trainers to not, if you just didn't make these mistakes, your life would be so much easier. I'm curious.
I love that question. I already got 2 right off rip. Not charging enough for your time and money. I mean, for your time and effort.
Sure.
There's you know how much I charged for my first board and train? It's embarrassing. $500.
Yeah. I've definitely done
and
that.
I don't regret it. I had to learn. I didn't have anyone. Sure. At the time I didn't have anyone to like call and ask for help. I just did it. Everything I did was on my own, you know, aside from, of course, asking people if I ran into an actual training problem, but not business wise, right? I didn't have any business person to lean on. Not at first.
Yeah.
So there you go, $500. And then when you do the math, I was like, I think I made 50 cents an hour.
Yeah.
Like no joke. It was sad.
Mm-hmm.
So then I charged $1,000 for the next one. I just kept doubling over time. Mm-hmm. But always at the end, I had this huge sense of relief and pride. Like, man, I was so proud of those initial dogs I trained. I poured my heart and soul in them. It's just one dog at a time early on.
Yeah.
And those dogs turned out just killer. Mm-hmm. But then, and when it was all said and done, I was like, ugh, I think I made $2 an hour on this one here. So kept learning from that. We already talked about it, but turning away clients that aren't good for you.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Taking on too many dogs at once. Don't get greedy now.
Yeah.
Don't get greedy.
That's a big one.
And I see people doing that. And it's hard, man. It's hard to say no.
Yeah. And if you look at that one from like a potentially really detrimental, lens, is like when you're taking on more dogs, that's where you start seeing these freaking neglect cases popping up and stuff. You put yourself in a position where it's like you can't provide the care that these dogs actually need. You put yourself in a very vulnerable position then if you do that.
Yeah. So, we could do a deep dive on that, but I'll just name some catastrophes that'll come out of, yes, you're not going to have enough time to properly train them or care for them.
Sure.
More dogs equals more risk just in general.
Yeah.
More dogs equals, for instance, risk of just what if one dog comes in sick? Now they're all sick, right?
Sure.
And then you have more dogs, then they're usually cramped in a tighter space, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
They can't be separated. So again, the idea of maybe a disease spreading increases. Just the stress of it.
Yeah.
The stress.
Yeah.
Because now, and you're under a time crunch. And if you're under a time crunch, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to push the dog too hard. That's going to backfire on you. And there's a lot of stress, even to this day, of like, for me anyways, I'm like, boy, this dog better perform. Like I sometimes have conversations with them. They don't know what I'm saying, but I'm like, can you just do good for me? Can you do that? Yeah. Can you not make me look like so but man, you multiply that by 8 dogs, 12 dogs, whatever it is, your number. So that's one. Here's another one. You cannot be, and you should not be afraid to ask for help. Mm-hmm. You got to ask for help, man.
Yeah.
You're running into a wall. Like you could be running on that wall for 2 or 3 weeks. You could solve your problem with one little phone call. So don't be afraid to be humble. Even to this day, if I run into a problem, you got to ask for help, man. You know, it doesn't hurt. Nobody knows it all.
Question on that. So I was actually, I was going to put this on my list of things to ask you, but it just got sparked up now. So early in your pet dog career, or even now, who are some people that you would reach out to for help if you had a question about, you know, dog?
Man, you trying to get my secret Rolodex. Canine trainers, right?
Yeah.
Who been in the game, you know, a decade or two.
Sure.
Justin Rigney, I'm a huge fan of. He's my dog trainer mentor, if you will, and my friend.
What's his last name?
And Rigney,
Rigney.
Rigney.
I'm not sure.
Canine Services Unlimited. He's out of Knoxville. A big, well-known police canine.
He's a police canine
trainer.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
but I mean, he does pet dogs too, for sure.
The name sounds
he's just-
familiar, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, you've seen him. There's no way you haven't seen him on Instagram. J Rig Canine.
Yeah.
Killing it, man. And
Nice.
Michael Ellis, who I am not friends with, but man, that's my guy right there. I really love his stuff. I want to get him on my podcast. Actually,
Yeah. He's the man. He's the fucking man.
He's just kind of where I started my journey. You know, early on.
Same. Yeah.
Love the way he teaches. Bart Bellin, even though I'm not friends with him, I met his wife Michael.
Yeah.
But I like watching his stuff just for inspiration.
Yeah.
Are
you super familiar with you know, the Nipopo style? Like, you know, have you done classes on it and stuff at all, or
say that again?
have you done like classes on it at all, or anything?
I have attended like Michael's class, just like an introductory class.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with Nipopo or Napopo.
Yeah.
Justin Rigney is a gold trainer on that. So because that's trademarked,
Yeah.
right? I don't even know if we can say it. No, I mean, it's great, man. And but our philosophies are very much in line with Napopo.
Sure.
I mean, Napopo is just a way of delivering
Negative
operant conditioning, right?
Yeah.
It's operant conditioning.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
and I'm not trying to water it down or say anything bad about it. It's fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
saying we use a lot of that in our own training, right?
Yeah.
You can't not do that.
Yeah.
If you're using, especially if you're using prong collars or e-collars, like you better understand how that works or how it can work or how it should work. So, and that's about it, man. You know, just watching stuff online too.
Yeah.
Just people send me stuff. I come across stuff. I'm like, and it could be some nobody trainer, meaning like, I don't know, like I don't know their name or nobody knows them. And they're in some other country. I saw this guy doing something the other day. Somebody sent it to me. I'll try to describe it, but he took a paracord or some kind of like rope, tied it to his thigh and created like a loop. And all it was is just like this little, almost like a target. And he was using it to teach the dog to attention heel. I said, that's cool.
Yeah.
Just used it the other day. So, because I just kept running into like this dog will not. It had this is a dog, giant schnauzer that went to prior board and train, and they were definitely using the e-collar more as a hammer.
Sure.
And so this dog already had been kind of improperly conditioned at e-collar, and so when it felt e-collar, it just head down, drop to the floor.
Yeah.
Head down, drop to the floor. So I was like, man, no, I need e-collar, at least in this instance, to mean head up, suck into me, be happy. Let's go. So I had to recondition the e-collar, but I just kept running into some roadblocks. I could not get this dog's head to come up. You could dangle a damn hot dog right here, filet mignon. She's like, no. Heel means stare at the floor.
Yeah.
Like, can you just get your head up a little bit? So anyways, use this technique. Only needed to do it 1 or 2 sessions, world of difference. So stole that right off of TikTok, baby. You know, someone sent it to me. It's a weird little technique. I don't know if I'm describing it correctly, but the gist is you have this
sticking their head into the loop. Is that what's going on?
That's all it is. Yeah. Just being under doesn't get you paid. You have to go over the rope, but you start it with it low. Now, mind you, this was a 20 or 30-second clip. They're not telling you how to do it. Yeah. But, you know, us as good dog trainers, we look at it and go, got it. That's cool. Cool. I'm sure other people have done that. It's like a healer stick. You know, you could use a healer stick maybe to get a dog's chin up. It's the same concept. So I kind of saw that and said, let me experiment with it. And it worked out. I just started with the rope, I use paracord. I started with it low. Yeah. So it's pretty easy, like the dog's going to go over it. And I just literally kept raising the bar until the dog's like, well, if I want to get paid, I have to come above the rope. That's the ticket, baby. Then get rid of the rope and man, now my dog's attention healing. Killer.
Yeah. I like that. That's cool. Okay, so moving back then on the things you said that were lessons you learned, so the not charging enough thing. So this one, I agree with you completely. I feel conflicted sometimes with it though, because I also see a lot of trainers right off the rip that I feel are charging way too much. Right? You know, they're in a position where they're charging $5,000 for a board and train. They're really not doing the best work. That dog will probably need further training later on from somebody else. And then because you charged basically, you know, top dollar of what a lot of the big name trainers out there are charging, you've kind of watered down that owner's expectations of what training can really accomplish, if that makes sense, right? So I'm curious to hear, at what point do you feel people should raise their rates? And is there like a bottom amount of money you would say is like, obviously $500 for 4 weeks, 6 weeks of work is way too little, obviously. But do you feel that there's kind of like a mark where, you know, this is a good amount of money for a new trainer to start at?
Ooh, I don't know. You know, that's a good question. I know the industry average that we should all be striving for is $1,000 a week, give or take, depending upon where you live. But yeah, I can't argue with you, David, as far as, yeah, now I kind of want to eat my own words. Yeah, you should be.
Well, it's necessary. It's not a mistake. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I also don't think you should just come right out of the box. You got to what's the word? You got to
pay your dues.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. You got to pay your dues.
Yeah.
And there is nothing wrong with grinding a little bit.
Yeah.
Look what I did. Like, as much as I said, like, oh, I charged $500 for my first dog, I don't regret it for an instant.
Yeah.
You know, I had to get into this pet industry and like see what it was all about and kind of learn as you go. And so, by the way, when you're just starting out and nobody knows who you are, maybe the only way you're going to kind of fill up those kennels or get the work that you need is because $500 is better than nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, by the way, that client that you trained could now turn into 2, 3, 4 other clients. But we go back to the idea of, well, I started doing this. As I was looking at, man, I only made $2 an hour on this one. I would tell the clients, I had many a conversation like this in my comeuppance. I'd say, hey, because they're like, man, this is great. Look at my dog's amazing. I can't believe this. Yeah, thank you so much. Could you just do me a favor? If anybody asks you where you got your dog trained, like by all means, you know, send them our way. Yeah. Please don't tell them how much I charge you.
That's a good one.
Or I would tell them,
that's a good one.
Whatever my next rate was. Because, you know, again, I was kind of starting to double my rate every few months, so to speak, till I got to a normal rate. Yeah. And so I'd say, hey, here's the piece of advice. If you're charging too little right now and you know you're going to be charging more in the future, especially if you're starting out with your friends and family, and please don't shoot yourself in the foot and tell them, like, because imagine he's like, yeah, bro, I trained my dog for $500. And now I'm getting these calls, but it's like, nah, man, my rates are now $2,000. It's a much harder sell. Yeah. So be careful of that. So what I'm saying is, charge whatever you need to charge to get it going, but leave room for some growth there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's hilarious you say that. I had someone recently, somebody call me that same deal was a referral from a client from forever ago, like 6 years ago or something like that. And literally they called me and they're like, they're like, oh man, I'm ready to do a board and train. Sign me up for it. I was like, did you look at the programs on the website? Because like our price is the same deal. They're right on the website. Like you either saw it or you didn't see it. Right. Yeah. And he's like, I saw it. I'm ready to go. You know, send me the paperwork, send me the invoice. I was like, all right, I send it out. I sent it to him. I get a call like 20 minutes later. $4,300. He's like, my guy told me it was like $1,500 or something. I was like, well, first off, that was 6 years ago. Yeah. Second off, you said you looked at it on the website. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Yeah. So that 100% happens. When I coach like newer trainers, one of the things I tell them as far as pricing is concerned is, and I can't take credit for this because I learned this. I went to Gary Wilkes' seminar forever ago, and he said this in his seminar, and it stuck with me. He said, stay as cheap as you can until you're as busy as you want to be, right? So if you want 2 dogs in your kennel, right, and you don't have 2 dogs in your kennel, whatever price point gets you 2 dogs in a kennel, and listen, that might be $200 fucking dollars, right? Or whatever.
Yep.
Like if you're a brand new trainer and nobody knows who the fuck you are, maybe $200 is the only thing that gets those people in your door, right? And very quickly, as you keep those prices as low as you can until you're as busy as you want to be, you'll find out how much you're worth. Because if the demand starts hitting a point where you're booking 3 months out, 4 months out, you're way too cheap. You got to jack the prices up until you're at that point you want to be at, right? And I think if you do that, it helps you, one, figure out what you're worth, and two, it makes sure that you don't charge too much, right? Because if you're charging $5,000 and you only have one dog every 6 months that you're getting coming in, you're charging way too much. You're not worth that because people aren't coming to you anymore, right?
Agreed.
So I think that that's a really nice way to be able to accurately figure out, what that winds up being. And then, like you said, I did a lot of, pro bono work when I first got into this. I'm not recommending you should be training dogs for free all the time, but like one client in particular I could think of, I easily made $30,000-$40,000 off of that. I trained his dog for free. Just he kept sending people my way.
That's right.
Super well connected guy, and it just right time, right place worked out really well. And it worked out really nicely. So I think that's a big one also. So cool. So any other big mistakes you've got? Anything so I know from a training standpoint, you said asking for help, obviously. Is there anything else that you could think of from a training standpoint that it's like, hey, don't make these mistakes, whether they're ones that you made yourself or that you could just think of that you see people making or anything like that?
You mean like literally nothing business related, just training?
I don't know. I mean, it could kind of cross the boundaries a little bit, but I mean,
sure,
more on the training side.
One comes to mind. So pretty simple thing, but we could all learn from it.
Yep.
Had a great Dane that I was training. I'm trying to go back, so bear with me. Sure. I remember where I was in my backyard training the dog. I say it was like a thunderstorm or something coming, so the dog was like anxious.
Yeah.
But it was blowing a recall. And I was like, this is a great little chance for us to like, hey, I know you're stressed. Yeah. I know you want to run back inside, but I'm going to proof you off this distraction, if you will. Like, just because you hear a little, and it's not like the thunderstorm is on top of us, it's way out in the distance, but the dog's basically stressing and wanting to go to the back door to go inside where it's safe. And I was like, great little opportunity to say, look, even though you're stressed, I need you to come over here. And so I don't remember the exact play-by-play of what happened, but I'll tell you where it went wrong. And two things happened. The dog failed to recall, but it was only like, I don't know, man, 15 feet away from me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be close because I was around the corner originally. It shoots around the corner to go to the back door. So I stepped closer to it so it can see me. So it's a very clear path. Like there's no confusion as to what I want. Mind you, please understand, this dog had a recall. Mm-hmm. This dog
knew it.
Understands e-collar pressure. So it's not like I did anything. Even we could argue that I went too far too fast, but I didn't plan for the thunderstorm. Like, hey, we're just going to take advantage of this right now. I can't have this dog blowing a recall. So you would say, well, if the dog understands recall, Garrett, how come it didn't recall? Well, it's like stress. It's like thunderstorm. This guy's calling me. Nah, I'd rather go inside. I don't care that you're calling me. So here's what my genius Garrett does. Got the e-collar on, and I knew that we needed a little bit of a spicier level on the e-collar. I mean, I'm very experienced with this dog. I know like a level 5 out of 100 ain't going to get it. Mm-hmm. So this is what happens, right? And I don't remember in which order this happened. Kind of doesn't matter, but the point of what ends up happening is I standing there, dog's looking right at me. I grab the e-collar, and whether I recalled it first or I e-collar first or whatever happens, I think I recalled, I gave the verbal, dog ignores the verbal, I reach up, I grab, I stim. I stim on a pretty spicy level. Don't quote me on the level, but enough for the dog to feel it. Dog did not like it.
Yeah.
Now the dog recalled, right? Good. And then I'm guilty of this, bro. I'm very guilty of this. I'll be guilty of this to the day I die. I'm the Mr. One more rep. Just one more rep. Like, let me try that again.
I'm bad about that.
Yeah. It's bad, man. It's bad. Because, I just want to keep getting it better and better and better. Yeah. Sometimes to a fault. So there's definitely a fault there. I've gotten better at this where it's like, all right, man, let's call it. We got another session later. We could do that later. Uh-huh. But on this one, and I there was no issue actually in doing this rep again.
Yeah.
But in one rep, one very good or bad rep, however you want to call it, because I got the recall. You know what I also taught the dog? I mean, this is so stupid, but we could all learn from it. I wish I had an e-collar on now.
That if you grab it to...
You already know.
Yeah.
The dog saw this motion.
Yeah.
And this particular e-collar I was using, I don't remember if it was their e-collar. I think the lanyard had failed. So this was like a aftermarket lanyard. Mm-hmm. It had this little metal on metal sound. So it was like almost like keychains. It sounded like a keychain. The dog learned in one rep that this motion, but even more importantly, the jingle of the e-collar means like you're going to get struck by lightning, basically.
Yeah.
Bro, so what ends up happening is I go to do the second rep and I go to grab the e-collar ahead of time or something. And this dog is like basically panic stricken. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, I had to look to make sure that I accidentally stim you. You know, every once in a while you might hit the button by accident or something. Yeah. And I'm looking, I'm like, you can tell that the button wasn't hit. And I'm like, uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
So now I'm watching the dog and I said, at least I figured it out quick. I grabbed the e-collar and the dog's like, ooh. I was like, oh. So now I had to basically desensitize it. I fixed it in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I would grab it, hot dog, grab it, hot dog, jingle, 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 hot dog. Yeah. So just a stupid little thing that we probably don't pay attention to, which is how much the dogs are paying attention to us visually and audibly. Even the smell, we forget. Yeah. But just be careful of that, right? So big lesson learned for me there is typically now going forward, I mean, this might seem like some very basic stuff, but this is just a hard lesson learned. That one rep for me was when you're using an e-collar, even leash corrections, especially on high levels, again, with the huge preface, I got to preface it all the time. When the dog is prepared for it, they've been properly conditioned, you're weeks and weeks in, and now we're at a corrective level for the dog.
Yeah.
Your best bet is not to go bang.
Yeah.
Bang. So now this is why I love the finger trainer, baby. You know, I love the little finger trainers or whatever brand you're using where the stem comes from your ring finger or the ring on your finger.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have that, man, it's smart to have that e-collar in your hand, like behind your back, in a coat pocket. Yeah. I don't want the dog to see any visual coming from me prior to a correction coming in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to supercharge your dog on the visual, which, by the way, one of my pet peeves that I cannot stand is when owners tell me, all I got to do is grab that e-collar and shake it in front of them and they're compliant. I'm like, look, I'm happy your dog's listening to you when you're holding the e-collar. You know, it'd be better.
Yeah.
Is if the dog had no idea what the e-collar was, that they thought your voice was empowered, which is what we teach. Yes. It's your voice that carries the power, not the visual of you grabbing the e-collar, not the sound the e-collar makes in your hand, not some weird goofy warning like, oh, if you don't listen, how about sit is the warning?
Yeah.
Fido here is the one and only warning. When I tell you down, that's your warning, baby. You should just listen.
Yeah.
So anyways, hopefully that wasn't too long of a story, but maybe something we could learn from it.
No, that's a good one. I think it's important for people to realize that, you know, the dog is going to make an association with something, you know, whether you're using something positive or you're using something negative, just make sure it's the thing that you want it to be, you know. That's why we push, like, if we're using like an actual correction for something, like we push actually utilizing markers for that because it makes the remote kind of irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter if the remote's over there in my hand, around my neck, in my pocket, whatever it may be. I'm the one that's delivering the correction, not the remote, you know. No different.
What do you use? And by the way, 2 questions for you, because I just like to learn.
Yeah.
What do you call that marker? Do you call it a corrective marker, a negative marker?
I think they're all kind of, you know, they can be used interchangeably, kind of, right? It's a punishment marker, right? So, like, obviously, when we're using aversives, we're using negative reinforcement or we're using positive punishment, right? So, negative reinforcement, because the release of pressure is the reinforcer, right? Or in your case, the release of pressure signals where the reward is going to be coming ultimately. You don't need a marker when you're using it, right? Because the timing is going to be precise every time with where that pressure shuts off, and they're going to develop that positive association with the pressure shutting off, right? So, no markers needed. Positive punishment, if I'm correcting a dog for jumping on a counter or whatever it may be, or blowing off a recall or whatever it may be, right? The importance is where the dog is making the mistake. So by providing your punishment marker for that, in our case, we just use no for it, right?
That was my next question.
Yeah,
what word do you
you
use?
use whatever you want for it. It's obviously it's just a conditioned in mark, right? So you could use no. Some people will use like the tone, right? Some people will use or things like that, right? The marker will always come well before the punishment is actually delivered, and because classical conditioning works, right? If you've paired those markers in well enough, the dog will associate that consequence coming with whatever they were doing when they heard the negative marker. Then at that point, right? And obviously there's, then people will get into like, oh, well, you could use a negative marker for negative punishment, right? The removal of a reward, right? Which if you're going to use both of those, you would have to have a different word for that one also. Because it's a different emotional state than the dog would be in.
Yep.
But yeah, so the marker negates the need of relying on the dog seeing a training tool, right?
Right.
If I have my dogs out and I have a bunch of people over for a party and, one of them goes and jumps on my aunt or something like that, I could identify and mark with no. And then even if my remote's in the kitchen, I could go and get that remote, give my consequence, and the dog will still correlate the two together. And I don't know how much you've actually looked into a lot of this kind of stuff, but it's pretty impressive, the research that was done by Pavlov back in the day on this kind of stuff. A lot of people associate him with just, the positive association in classical conditioning, but he did a lot of research on like static stimulation and dogs correlating markers to punishment, right? Punishment markers. And he actually proved in one of his books he has, which was a collection of his studies, he actually proved that dogs could make a correlation of classical conditioning between a tone and static stimulation up to 30 minutes after the fact.
Oh, wow.
It's unbelievable. I tell people that sometimes and it like blows their mind. I would say that's a controlled environment, right? That's in, a freaking...
My assumption then it has to be, for that to work up to 30 minutes, there has to be like super neutral.
Yeah, I mean,
input.
You can't have a ton of distractions and stuff going on.
It can't be like a tone and then like 30 minutes of rock music.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming it's like a tone and nothing.
Yeah. It's no different than anything. If you were to look at like that, for example, like if 30 minutes of rock music was going on, it would have to be conditioned 30 minutes out. And then the actual punishment that's happening has to be more motivating than that distraction then at that point.
Yep.
But,
so I love everything you said. Like I always learn anytime speaking with someone like yourself, who's obviously very well versed in dog training, man, I love it because I just eat it up. Just love kind of learning and sharing ideas. It's cool to see what we agree on. And then in this case, your use of like, so we go Cesar Millan, baby.
Sure.
My favorite punishment marker is the
all right.
my go-to, baby.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And for Caesar, right? People look at it and people get frustrated with it. And I'm guilty of this also because like I see a lot of owners, not so much anymore, but I used to get a lot of owners in like back in the day when Caesar shows were really popular and stuff that would come in and they'd be chitting all over the place. Right? And I feel like just stop for a minute. Stop. We're changing all of this, right? But technically speaking, if you're following the laws of classical conditioning and that predicts some sort of coming, right?
My shush, don't mess with my shush. It means something.
It's the same exact thing. Yeah. So
and I teach my folks how to. I say your shush ain't like my shush. My shush has meaning. But the reason I use it for anybody that's interested is like for me, it's a very novel sound. Yeah. Right. Sure. Because no, you might use no in your normal vernacular anyways, just talking. Yeah. And I think there's some natural. A cat will hiss at you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A snake. It's kind of like you could take a dog. Not always, but they kind of come pre-installed from the factory. They hear and they're like, whoa. It's weird. So
what the fuck was that?
It's a good sound. Did you see my video? I'm trying to plug my stupid social media stuff. Did you see me absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, we went to a pet store and we got one of those little CO2 cans off the shelf. Brother, 10 or 15 bucks for a little CO2 can. Yeah. Guess what it does? It goes, and so
Cesar Millan in a can, is that what you called it or something? Yeah, I did see
basically, but
yeah.
Anyways, man, I was like, I cannot believe, man, people are selling. It's a $10 plus. They had a small, medium, and a large. Correctors. So the large is like $30. I'm trying to say the name.
I'm curious your take on those tools, like because I will use them from time to time, but I have particular places I like using them. But I'm curious your opinion as a whole on the.
You gotta watch the video,
even if you fucking hate it, man. It's fine. I'm just curious.
I completely shit on it. I have such a good time because I'm like. I even showed my videographer this. We were having a conversation about it after we filmed it. He's in the UK, so he was watching. He goes, in his awesome English accent, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to impersonate it, but like, what the fuck, man? You can just, can't you make that sound out of your mouth for free? Yeah. I was like, exactly, bro. So then you got to watch the video. It's so funny because I end up like, you know what this is good for? And I spray my pits and I spray my junk. I'm like, it's a great deodorizer. And then as I'm doing that, it fucking runs out of air.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, there's my $10. And then it was funny because I'm reading the label and it says, will stop a dog fight. I'm like, ain't no fucking way this is stopping a dog fight. Okay, maybe way before one starts. I could see it maybe interrupting, but not in the middle of a dog fight. I ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah, not a real one at least. Yeah.
It stops jumping. So I was like, let's test it. So I go, and the dog jumps on me. I say, what is that? So look at this, bro. And look, yes, can it work? Of course it could work. But it's not just the tool. Like with everything, it's how you use it.
Of course.
Can it work? Of course it could work. Yeah. Some dogs will laugh at it. Some dogs like 100%. Will poop their pants with a shush. But I really just come back to like, do you need? How about you just go? It makes the same damn sound. You don't have to pay for it. It's free air, you know. So, but then I put that out, and of course,
it's pretty damn loud though. It's a little bit louder. I don't know if you could that loud.
Oh, I got a strong shush, babe. I've been practicing for years and years now. But yeah, but then of course some people are in the comments saying, "Oh, but it works for me." Yeah, I get it. It works. But I was like, man, that's a lot of money for air. Yeah. I think, by the way, why don't you just go to Office Depot or something and pick up a whole badass can of a duster? So now you got for cheaper.
I've tried them before. They don't work the same.
Okay.
Because I had the same thought. You know what else though that they have that this I don't even know if they make them anymore, but they used to be called the Pet Convincers, which basically was it was the same thing. It was CO2, and it actually had the refillable cartridges that you put on it. And it was like how they used to sell those old like bicycle tire pumps, right? It was the same exact thing. But so the places that I will use it for is every now and then we'll get one of those really dog reactive dogs in that just when they get reactive, their pain threshold goes through the fucking roof, right? Like I don't care. Pain. Yeah, I don't care how hard you pop them, how high of a level you use on the e-collar, like nothing is working to get their attention off of that.
I even make it worse.
And a couple of those dogs, man, for as pain sensitive as they are, because they're in such a heightened state, their startle response goes through the fucking roof, right? So because the pet convincer or the pet convincer, Jesus Christ, those haven't existed in a while. The pet correctors, because they're so freaking loud and they give out such a wide burst of air, and that's why the keyboard dusters don't work, is the pet correctors, the burst of air is really wide.
So you're actually using the tactile sensation of the air hitting them.
Combination of the two, right?
Okay, cool.
It's the air mixed with the sound, right? So, with a lot of those dogs, man, in a reactive moment, you mark with no, right? You go right kind of near the side of the neck is generally where I aim with it. And I'll tell you, man, those dogs, I've had a couple of them where it was like the magic fucking tool. You know, it just eliminated that last little bit of reactivity. And it's funny, get back to things I've seen on TikTok or Instagram and stuff like that. I saw a video. Now, I'm not recommending do this because I'm sure there could be some negative implications for it. But I saw a guy basically doing the same thing with a fucking air horn, like a bullhorn. Yeah. And
I get it.
This dog he stopped. I'll tell you that. Now, that being said, I don't want to be damaging dogs' hearing and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily know if I would go ahead and do that. But I thought that was a pretty wild thing that I saw as well.
See, now I got something to go home and try with now. Yeah. So like I said, as much as I'll talk smack about this or that, you know, don't knock it till you try it.
Yeah.
I could see, that makes a ton of sense in that particular application. A dog that's just immune to everything else you're throwing at it. Sure.
It just startles the shit out of them. The only problem to it is obviously because it's working solely off of startling the dog. Like once you get startled by something enough times, it doesn't shock you anymore, you know? So you got to kind of get it under control right there and then get that arousal down to a low enough level where then you could rely on your other training tools to kind of get it the rest of the way there. But it really is kind of
I could see the dog redirecting too. Like, which just bit me in the neck. Bah.
You got to be careful about that as well. Where I would say like redirecting is like if you have a dog that's going to redirect, like generally they're going to redirect when you give them a correction for something. The difference is with the pet corrector, you're getting so close to them that it's the risk of it is going to be a little bit higher because of that. So those are all things you got to be mindful of as well. So
you know what my favorite thing was because he made a real video of the pet corrector once, and the dog's just like, and so many positive only trainers were
Oh, yeah,
what
dude.
are you doing? I'm
People-
like,
people
it's
get up and
air,
on.
bro. Like,
Jesus.
They can't
you
make up their
win with those
mind.
folks,
They can't
man.
make up their
You can't
mind of
win
what
with
they
them.
get mad about.
I know,
you
but I was just dying as the media guy looking at these comments like,
Yeah.
he sprayed it with compressed air. Jesus Christ.
Okay, so I guess kind of last question here. I'm curious about so like we talked about, I don't want to get too crazy with controversy and all those types of things and everything. But as balanced dog trainers in the media world, like Josh said, like you post a video of something like using a pet corrector, or correcting a dog with a prong, or things like that, and like you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position where if that video gets enough traction and the right people see it, they really, really could try to weaponize that against you, right? So I guess the lens I'm looking to get your opinion on, or from the lens of, is how do we as balanced dog trainers who use corrections, we understand the benefit of them, right? And we understand where to apply them properly. How do we protect ourselves in the social media world with the followings we have without borderline like lying to our clients about what we do? Because like there's a degree of you have to show corrections sometimes, right? You have to have people understand how you train so you don't run into situations where your clients come in to work with you and then are surprised because they've never seen, you correct a dog before on a video or anything like that. I think you know where I'm going with this. Like how do you protect yourself in those types of situations?
Protect yourself? I don't know.
Yeah.
All you can do is just be who you are, stand up for what's right, be consistent, stand your ground, and don't let these pussies try to be this woke bullshit that we're seeing, not just in the dog training industry, and I'm not trying to be maybe uncouth or use these folks, I feel bad for them. The folks that are coming after us, I say us, me, other dog trainers, it's like they got nothing better to do. And I feel bad for them. You know why I feel bad for them? Because if you're a dog trainer, man, don't you have dogs to be training? Yeah. Is this really where you want to spend your time researching other dog trainers and trying to dig so deep, comb through thousands of hours of my material to find a 30-second clip or a 3-second clip from a 30-minute video and then spend the time to make videos like how much time? I know how much time it takes to edit a video. It's like you all spent 10 hours editing that video. And for what? Can't you just go train some dogs? Like, I'm going to keep doing me. That's my message. Yeah. I'm going to keep doing me. You all keep doing you. More power to you. If it works, keep doing it. But if you didn't feel threatened by what we're doing, then you probably wouldn't be coming after me. And there's actually a great line, I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, nobody who's doing better than you will ever talk bad about you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have nothing bad to say, even though I might said the mean P word, but it's like,
sure.
Just you all keep doing you because I'm going to keep doing me. So to answer your question is like, in a perfect world, we just stand united.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree on certain things, but generally speaking, be proud of what we do. And again, I just feel bad for them. Like I genuinely feel bad. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to feed into the drama.
Yeah.
But it's like some of these folks are just like grasping on for dear life to stay relevant.
Yeah.
They're going down, man, like the damn Titanic. Yeah. They're sinking. And they're sinking hard and fast. And I'm not just seeing that in our particular industry. People have had enough, across the US and beyond. Like they're tired of this woke BS. Have to be perfectly politically correct. Don't be afraid to offend anyone and I'm not going to hide under a rock.
Yeah.
I'm already out there. I'm here. I don't claim to be perfect. I've made mistakes in the past. I'll make mistakes in the future. All we can do is keep on trying. And then this is kind of a mixed bag here, but it's like, we have found just through the research of our own customers, over 66%, we've taken polls, we keep doing this, I find this very interesting, have wasted thousands of dollars on 1, 2, or sometimes 3 or 4 trainers before they finally find us. And that's both in board and train and our online training. Because of this, you talked about lies, right? Like, you said something about us borderline lying. I think that's the beauty of us as balance trainers.
Yeah.
Are those who aren't afraid to say, hey, these are the tools we use, and this is sometimes what we have to do to get the job done. that this is the truth, and the truth speaks volumes. Where it's really sad for those trainers, and especially for the customers, their clients, who have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars time and time again to realize the pet corrector ain't going to solve all their problems. You know what I mean? Yeah, great if it does, fantastic. But you can't you can't hot dog away a lot of these issues. And so the good news, I guess, is like, we're here and we're ready to help you. And if our training works for you, awesome. If we are not your cup of tea, bro, go down the street. There's another ice cream store ready for you. You don't like the flavor I'm serving? No problem. We got a long enough line anyways. So, you know, it's just sad. And then where it gets really, really sad is like, we already have enough crap getting thrown at us from, you know, the other side. Well, the last thing we need to do is have the infighting amongst ourselves. Yeah. You know, we're not all going to be totally in agreement in every little thing. But where it gets really sad is when we have people from our own, you know, community of balanced trainers throwing nasty, nasty darts and knives at each other. It's like, man, you know, can't we all just get along? We got enough going on. Yeah. Can we not back each other up? So, or even if you don't agree, you know what my mama said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I stick with that. Some good advice. So, because that social media world it can be very, very nasty, man. Yeah. Very nasty. And by that, I mean, getting death threats. Yeah. People posting our home address. Yeah. People are crazy, man. Yeah. And, I don't know. I don't have any final words of wisdom other than we're just going to keep doing what we think is best. Yeah. What works. And if you find salvation in positive only training, fan-freaking-tastic. Like, I'm so happy. Yep. And I think too, what's really sad is people don't understand, and we don't try to, again, I don't like to start no internet wars or anything. I can't stand it, to be honest with you. I'm too busy. You know, I had someone this morning say, hey, did you see this video where this guy is talking smack about me? I'm like, don't know, don't care, literally don't have time for it, baby. I got a podcast with David. I don't have time to look at this nonsense. And it's like, what good does it do me? You know what I mean? It's just haters. It's just haters. And I go back to that. Like, if they were doing so well, then they wouldn't have the time either to talk smack. So you got to have some thick skin, you know, and just keep grinding on, man. It's just, I would like us though to, in a perfect world, we can all just agree to disagree. Or oh, and this is what I was starting to say, and I got sidetracked. Y'all forget, and like, David, you know, there is so much, we are better at positive training than most of the positive trainers. Yeah. That's going to hurt some feelings. Yeah. Baby, if we can get it done with a treat, I'm the first one in line. Sure. I have puppies in my program right now. We're doing a raise and train with 2 pups. Got them at 8 weeks old. I mean, we're like 6 weeks in. Yeah. Haven't used a prong collar, haven't used an e-collar, and these dogs are little champs. Yeah. But guess what? They will get a prong collar and they will get an e-collar. We're just now starting to condition them to it by, guess what? Putting the prong collar on and giving them a treat. Putting the e-collar on, giving them a hot dog. They love the prong collar. They love the e-collar because we're doing it right. We're taking our time. And why? You say, Garrett, why? Because these are going to be 130 and 140 pound Cane Corsos. They're Italian Mastiffs. They're going to be monsters. So we might need a little bit of power steering, power brakes installed from the factory in this sense, because I haven't left my factory just yet, so that when they go home, anyone in that guy's family is going to be able to walk the dog. They want their kid to walk it. They has young children. I want his 7-year-old daughter to be able to walk this 140-pound beast of a dog. Yeah. And so I'm sorry, but that's not going to get accomplished with any sense of reliability with a bag of hot dogs. Yeah. Right. So I don't know, man. You could talk forever and ever about it. Yeah. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. It works. Mm-hmm. We just see it time and time again in our comment section, and we see it in reviews from our customers that they tried X, Y, and Z with no hope. They're about to give up. Then they come over and literally, and some of the simplest stuff, like we said, just walking your dog on a leash, it doesn't take 6 months to get that right. Mm-hmm. You've been dealing with it for years. I got a solution for you that'll take you 5 minutes to get it right. Yeah. Are there other ways? Of course there's other ways, but you've probably tried all those other ways. This is like a guaranteed way that will work. And it is what it is. And so, like, I think, like I said, like, You don't got something nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
But we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And I think the truth, really shines through. And people have had enough. And if you're watching some of the drama that's been going on, you look at the comments on these, I don't know what you want to call them, like haterade videos, not coming from me.
Sure.
People are like, the comments section speaks for itself. They're like, bro, don't you have anything better to do than just constantly bash other trainers?
Yeah.
Why don't you, and by the way, if you got a better way that works,
Let's see it.
fucking show us.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to sign up for your class.
Let's see it.
Stop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Show us. Stop talking. Show us.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready to learn too. You know what I mean? So anyways,
I like that.
hopefully that
No,
answered your question.
I think the just keep doing you side of things is really important. Obviously, we've been the victims of some like launches towards us, on videos we posted and stuff like that as well. Not anywhere near to the magnitude of you, I'm sure, because of the following that you have, obviously. But like there have been some times where it's like, damn, like 5-6 days of people making stitched TikToks and this and that. It's like every time I check my phone, it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, you're looking. It's, it does get brutal sometimes. But the really interesting thing is anytime it's ever happened before, you realize like it's just social media. The business is still running all the same. We're still booking clients. So it's like for every 5 TikToks I get, it's like I'm booking another fucking client, So I think trainers really need to be able to separate, their social media world and their actual business that they're running. And social media makes it really hard sometimes because you feel like the whole business is centered around the social media, but in actuality, it's a totally separate thing, right? Focus on your business. 99.9% of your clientele probably doesn't even know what the fuck is going on social media or what people are saying, or who any of these other big name trainers are that are trying to talk shit or make videos about you and stuff like that. And, if you could focus on that and just kind of keep helping your clients, like, unless you're doing something egregious, like you're going to be just fine.
Yep. Yep. And then sometimes I turn to my boy, Gary V, and he talks about it a lot because he gets hate too in his industry.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I just feel bad for them. And he's right. I do feel bad. Like if that's what you want to spend your time on, like, man, that's a sad existence. Like I genuinely feel bad.
Yeah.
And when they're ready to come over to our side, I'll be happy to show you, like, by the way, you see that, I see that so much, not like a ton, but it's happening. And you'll see in the comment section, like, I used to be a positive only trainer.
Yeah.
And after years and years of it, it's like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And a lot of them come from like shelters and stuff like that. And they're seeing dogs get put down because of a lack of the ability to fix a problem that could maybe be fixed with just a couple of weeks with someone who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And now they finally come over to the dark side, if you want to call it that. And they're like, man, if I had only known better too. It's interesting too. The flip side of that is, I had a conversation with my father once, who was in the police canine world since 81. Back in the early 80s, and even still very prevalent today in police canine training, is old school, the opposite, old school crank and yank training, right? Like they refused to use treats. They didn't use treats back in the day. And my dad told me one time, never shared this before, but he says, Garrett, because he went through 5 dogs in his 30-year career.
Yep.
And the type of training he did with dog 1 and dog 2 is different than 3, 4, and 5. By the time he got around to dog 5, our police canine unit was all in the balance training world, right? And so he says, man, I think and cry, sometimes sit down and cry about what we used to do to our old partners to is really like barbaric.
Oh,
man. It's just stupid. But we didn't know better back then. None of us knew better. I'm not trying to lump me into it. I'm just saying we as a police canine world, but it's like, he's like, Garrett, what we used to do to get them to jump over a fence. They wouldn't use a hot dog or a tennis ball.
Yeah.
They'd use a leash and a prong collar and say, like, let's go. And he's like, man, had we only known better, man, had we only known better back then, but it wasn't as prevalent back then now. So kind of, what we say with the balance training world, we're going to take the best of both of these worlds and combine them. And some dogs, 99% you can get accomplished with hot dogs. Notice I didn't say 100%, 99. And then other dogs, they could care less about your hot dog, and we got to use alternative routes, right? Yeah. So anyhow, We could spend forever talking about it, but all you can do is just keep doing you. And what can you do, man? What can you do?
Yeah, I like it. Awesome. Well, Garrett, I really appreciate coming back on. Good chat, obviously, as last time. I think people are gonna like it. I really think, we were just talking about it, just before we got on this. Like, you got a massive following, man, and I feel like 99% of the time when I see people that have such big followings, I'm always like, I wish there was a better message going out. And I feel like you're doing a really, really, really good service for the balanced dog training community and the content you put out, how the dogs look, the training you're doing. You're very well spoken. I think people really resonate with that. So I really like what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing, and not that you need my applause, obviously, but it's really good to see somebody, getting the recognition they deserve for doing good work. So, man, that's appreciate you being on.
Very, very nice of you, man. You didn't have to say that, but that compliment goes a long way, because I feel like sometimes a lone man on an island out here. You know
I get
what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but thank you. That hits home, man. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. You wanna plug your online courses, your training, anything? Go right ahead.
Everybody knows where to find us. Hopefully, American Standard Dog Training on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And then if you want the world's best online dog training courses, DIYK9.com.
Hell yeah.
We'll see you in the courses.
All right, man. Until next time.
Thank you so much.
Good talking. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, keep up the great work. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.